After the infection broke out, it didn't take long before it overwhelmed the entire city, eventually reaching the prison itself. Inmates were infected, and the once overcrowded cell block became a nightmare filled with the undead. But one prisoner hid away from it all. Locked away inside his cell, he had somehow survived the initial outbreak. His goal now? To survive 100 days in the zombie apocalypse. My journey began looking out of the window of my prison cell, where I had hidden away from the outbreak of the zombie virus. On me, I had a knife and a metal pipe that I had obtained from my time in the slammer, and I was going to need them, as just a few cells down, one of my old inmates had fallen victim to the virus, so I had to put him out of his misery. It was sad to see Stephen end like this. There were a few more that were infected in the cell block, so I smashed their brains in with my pipe and knife till they ceased to exist. My first goal was to rid the cell block of any zombies, so I could at least have a safe space. And once it was quiet, I got to raiding the other cells, where I found a knife stashed in the toilet. Clearly, someone had a similar idea to me during their time behind the bars. From the other toilets, I got an empty jar and pistol ammo. My cell block was pretty empty, so I decided to move into the kitchen area, where there were a few more of the infected. It seemed this must have been one of the hotspots of the infected to gather, as there was just a ridiculous amount of them that I had to kill. With it now quiet, I began searching the kitchen for whatever I could find. Getting some charred meat and water, before I removed this zombie who was guarding a food pile with even more food and water inside. I also found a cooking pot which will be good for later on, and some more meat. Next I entered cell block B and began looting the prisoners' stashes inside the toilets.
Ooh, Mega Crush. But what were these prisoners stashing in their toilets? That's really good. Oh, some more ammo, wow.
Cell block B must have housed the top dogs in the prison, as I found energy drinks, ammo and another knife. I then ventured into this storage room and found some more random bits and books. With all the loot I'd found so far, I headed back to my cell to get it placed into a storage box, and once I felt lighter again, I headed west of my cell block and took out this sleeping zombie, followed up by some vultures who must have been preying on what they thought was a dead body. I killed the vultures, harvesting their bodies to get feathers. I made my way out into the courtyard, where some more zombies waited, including this feral infected dog. There was also this glowing-eyed inmate who seemed a little bit quicker than the rest of the other zombies. Maybe he had just been hitting the gym more in his time in prison. The courtyard had an ammo pile which gave me some good ammo for a machine gun, and so did one of the loot bags that a zombie had dropped. I headed inside the security watch room, where I got some arrows and read a schematic, and was able to peer through the glass into the visitation room, which was rather full of zombies. I decided I would tackle that tomorrow, so headed back to my cell, closing the door behind me so no zombie would follow, and tucked into a couple of the charred meats I had found and a glass of water to wash it all down, and then hopped in bed for the night after my first day living in the zombie apocalypse. As I went to sleep on the first night, there was only one thing on my mind, and that is the mobile game Zombie Waves. If you're into fighting zombies, which you probably are if you're watching this video, then this is the game for you, as mowing down hordes of mutant creatures has never been more fun and easy with the game's simple one-handed control system. Zombie Waves is a fast-paced 3D shooter which dives into the survival aspect, whilst providing an in-depth build customization to make sure no survival experience feels the same, as you combine different guns, skills, vehicles and even robot sidekicks to your arsenal to tackle the hordes. What starts as a lone survivor struggling to cope with the surrounding zombie horde soon turns into an all-powerful gun-wielding maniac tackling the masses of zombies. But there are more than just zombies to quench that trigger-happy thirst, as you can face up against mutants, alien-like creatures and bosses. And now the bosses are where you can really test your survival skills, but can also be rewarded handsomely if you are successful. But if you do fall up short, then don't worry, as this game prioritises short, fast-paced runs so you can quickly jump right back in and within no time get yourself back up to a similar level. So make sure to check out Zombie Waves using my link down below or the QR code on screen and get yourself an incredible starter pack containing 3 weapon material pool vouchers, 2 Robot Decryptors, 1 equipment draw voucher and 888 diamonds. And check out the game's current 3rd anniversary event with exciting treasure hunts and fun mech themed challenges to keep you entertained. So what are you waiting for? Download Zombie Waves today and join the fun. I woke up early the next morning with the sun shining through the window and decided that I was going to go explore the downstairs. I snuck up on this zombie beneath the stairs and removed him, getting a skill point which I put into pain tolerance, which reflects the hardiness that I developed during my time in prison. I took out a few more zombies who were hiding in the server rooms and then headed into the cleaning room, clearing out that room, as well as the bathroom. With the masses cleared, I began to loot whatever I could find left behind. The next area I wanted to clear was back out in the courtyard, behind the barbed wires where a few zombies had accumulated, including one zombie who dropped a loot bag containing shotgun ammo and an axe.
Ooh, axe, that's going to be helpful. And some painkillers.
I found this food box which had a really good sham chowder in, and then some more shotgun and pistol ammo, followed by some medical supplies before I got back to taking out some more zombies. I killed another zombie who dropped a loot, giving me more ammo and a couple handgun magazines, which were going to be rather useful later on. With the courtyard now fully cleared, I headed back into my cell block after a pretty good day of clearing out zombies. I ate up some cornbread and a can of peas for dinner, and stayed in my cell for the night. Once I was up for day 3, I heard some commotion going on near the visitation room, and it seemed the zombies had broken down the front door to it, and as I checked around the corner, the zombies had seen me, so now I had to clear them out too. There were quite a few, and I felt myself getting overpowered a little bit, as there were just a few of those orange-eyed zombies who were quicker and stronger. So I rushed backwards using their doors to protect myself from them, but before I could reach them, I got bit and an infection had begun. After catching my breath, I tried to take the zombies out, but got caught once more. I backed further and was able to get them dealt with, but unfortunately, there was still more in the visitation room, as the front doors were actually broken in, so I got to taking out the few zombies left that had wandered into the prison. The next section for me to clear was the entrance to another cell block, which had quite a few zombies in it. But having survived 2 days already in the zombie outbreak, I was getting fairly used to my knife and butchering the dead.
Right, into cell block A. Oh my... Whoa, I did not see all these zombies there.
So I dealt with them fairly easily. It didn't take me long to start on the next wave of zombies as I tried to enter the next area. I found myself a small ammo pile and looked into where the new transfers arrived, and it looked rather busy. There were a few more of those orange-eyed zombies who were more of a problem to deal with.
I'll continue to back up further, get some stamina back. Ow. Did not know that door was open. Ow. Ow. Pop a bandage. Close it. I need to close the door. Pop painkillers as well. We need health. Right, okay, that one's dead. Oh, the biker died as well? Okay, that's good. Oh, that was a chaotic part. I do need to beat up, and I'm tempted to eat this sham chowder because I need health. Right, I need more. I'm just going to eat this sham chowder, I think. 80 health. Yeah.
Having recovered slightly, I still needed to fix my deep laceration with either a med kit or a sewing kit, of which I had neither. I figured the only option was to continue exploring the prison, hoping to find what I needed, so that inevitably led me to more zombies. But it was rather quiet now, which meant there was only the upstairs of the prison left to clear. So I made my way up the stairs to face what was left, and saw something that I was yet to see. A green zombie. It looked radiated, so I hit it once and rushed backwards towards safety behind a door. But it didn't take long for that door to break, so I scrambled back towards the bars of the cell block and closed them behind me. They should hold the zombies off for a bit longer than the other doors. Once they had broken a small hole in the door, I was able to start hitting them, and it didn't take me long to get all 3 of them down. Behind them in the room they were in, they left a bunch of loot, as I got my water and my very first gun, a pipe rifle, and a bunch of ammo to accompany it. I made my way back to the cell for the night to drop off all the loot I had found. I set up a campfire to cook some water, which was a refreshing reward for the day's hard work, and then took my place on my bed for the night. Once up in the morning, I made my way back to the loot room, as there was one chest I hadn't opened yet, but it was going to take me quite a while to break it open, but I had all day.
Ooh, mech kit's really good. Good ammo. Some armor, at least. Attack speed, that's really good. And an auto turret bundle. Ooh. Oh, wait, we can't really use it, though. Don't have electricity. Ooh, we can get rid of our laceration. That's good. Now, there's this gun safe. I want to open this up, see if we can get a gun from here. Right, what are we getting this gun safe? Pistol, maybe? Pipe bombs? Could be good. We're really looking for some sort of pistol. I almost refuse to believe that there's not a weapon apart from a pipe rifle inside a prison. Why, hello. That's not too far away. I went back to my cell to drop off all the loot and saw an airdrop really wasn't too far away. So it was time to finally step outside the prison and into the city to go get it. For the first time since we were incarcerated, oh my, look at the zombies. There's quite a few. I wouldn't mind trying to find some sort of water source as well. So I have a bunch of jars, I can cook up some water. Right, we'll try and sneakily get this airdrop before the zombies get to us. Axe, food, okay. On the way back to the prison, I saw a swimming pool, which I used to fill up my water jars, which I now cooked in the campfire to produce fresh drinking water. With the prison now mostly empty, I began gutting it of the resources, scrapping whatever I could find, and then I made my way to my cell for the night. In the morning, I was presented a gift. Oh, why is there a piggy? We're gonna kill it.
This gave me some raw meat, which I could eat later. Day's 5 goal was to address my infection as I stepped out the prison once more. I needed to find honey to cure it, which you can get from these tree stumps, but my luck was just not in. So I tried my luck heading into the city to explore what I could find there. I did find this underground bar, which seemed a pretty good place to hide out actually, away from the zombies who were still following me. I climbed on top of this building to get a better view of the city, hoping to find some sort of medical centre, but nothing was visible. I did find a broken down ambulance, but it only had 1 piece of honey inside, and I needed 5 to cure my infection. So with it turning night, I returned to the prison and to the safety of my cell. Once again, day 6's goal was to head outside and find myself some honey. It didn't take long to get the first piece of honey, nor did it to get the second, so I consumed them both and worked on getting the last 2 that I needed. It took a little while to get the third, but this time bees spawned which I needed to kill. I ended up finding this honey stand which gave me the last piece of honey I needed, and I also got 1 more for future measures. On my way back I got another piece of honey. At the prison I decided to do some base prepping. Day 7 was a calmer day, as I cooked up water and got the base ready for the horde night, placing some spike traps near the entrances, and as I reloaded this pipe machine gun I had found in the city, I was ready for the night.
Right, okay, so we have our gun loaded, we have our knives repaired, we do have a couple of pipe bombs and timed explosive charges. It'll be quite interesting to see which way they come from. I'm expecting them to come from this way because it's right next to like the courtyard area, but I'm not too sure. We do have this mega crushing date in case things go wrong and we can just run for 6 minutes. Alright, hear that? Oh, they're coming this way. Okay. They're coming from both sides. That's not what I want. That's really not what I want, because it means I have to be focusing on both sides at the same time. That's... Right, come on, zombie. Okay. But they're stuck over there. When there's an open door right there. These zombies really have no brains. Here they are. Hello, zombies. Nope, leave back. I want that. Some ammo. Oh, we'll wear that. Oh, hello. Bye bye. Oh, some more knife guys. It's all good ammo. Pretty good ammo. There's one there. Might be a bit dangerous doing this, but. Oh, another loot bag. Well, that's horde night over. That was a lot calmer than I was expecting it to be.
There were a few stragglers left, but once they were dead, I moved on with my day, as I wanted to go find this treasure map. After finding the location of it underneath a road, I got to digging it up. It took me a few hours to find it and break it open, but it was worth it as inside there was some more ammo. I thought the treasure map would make my day rather peaceful, but when I returned home, some more zombies tried to inhabit my cell block, so I was forced to remove them. On day 9, I headed out of the prison and into the city once more, killing zombies to get more loot bags, and then finding this.
Oh my. Oh my. Why the hell is that thing just chilling there?
I continued to explore the city, hoping to re-find that underground bar I'd seen before, as it looked a rather cool place to check out.
The Hairy Armpit. That might be the best name for a place ever. Zombies? Hello. Okay, we've got a biker.
The place had quite a lot of water, which made sense, and some food, and then decided, having looted it and cleared the prison, I needed to spend some time in the city, getting better gear, so I would use this as a temporary base for now.
Right, yeah, this is going to be my base. The armpit, or is it set up there? The Hairy Armpit.
So I placed down some storage boxes and dumped all the loot I had on me inside them. I then headed back to the prison to get my items, and not wanting to transport it all at night when zombies are quicker, I waited till the next morning to do so. I arrived at the new base by midday, but soon heard a supply drop fly overhead. After scaling a nearby building, I saw it was landing back towards the prison area, so off I went to go get it. But with landing in between buildings, I couldn't find it. Instead, I returned to the prison to collect my remaining items and brought the rest of them to the new base, which finished off day 10. During the night, I looted the upstairs part of the building, which I hadn't explored yet. My goal for day 11 was to find some more food, as that's kind of a priority to survive. So I entered this burger joint, cleared the zombies that were inside, and found a couple cans of salmon before being snuck up on by this fat cop who clearly wanted to share my food. He had given me a small infection, so I quickly rushed back to base to clear it with some honey. With that cured, I went back out to go get some more food, heading into this restaurant. Despite the zombies inside, it had no food for me, so I tried out the Brawling Irishman bar, hoping that would. And it did, as I got some cat food, and some cooking books, and a zombie which dropped a loot bag containing shotgun ammo. My next stop was this Shamway food store, which made sense, except the entrance was next door in a medical store, which was actually quite handy. Inside I found some yucca water and a bandage, and in the food store some meat and some more yucca water. The store had an upstairs which I accessed through an elevator shaft, where of course more zombies were lying. There was also a dance studio called Dance Until You Die, and well, I don't want to dance till I die. I made my way up onto the roof, where some more zombies were present, and then into this attic space, which had a medical box containing vitamins and steroids. I found some cool fighting magazines on my way out, and went back to base as it was starting to get late. I was expecting a quiet night, until a couple zombies snuck up behind me, so it seemed a fair few were starting to figure out where I was living. I remember seeing a library in the city as I was moving my stuff out of the prison, and wanting books to unlock better gear, I began looting it, and defending it from the zombies who were calling it home. By the time I was finished, I had most notably gotten 7 knife books, 8 armor, 5 cooking and some other tech books. Nearby was another food store, so I popped over to that, where I got some candy which improved the loot quality. Inside the store, I continued to take out the barrage of zombies, including these 2 orange-eyed ferals. The loot inside gave me some peas, cat food, shotgun parts and ammo, and the reinforced chest gave me some more ammo, medkits and new armour to wear. I was a bit encumbered with all the loot I had, so I used this steroid to give me a boost of strength to make the trip back home. The following night, more zombies tried to enter the base. Maybe the fact I didn't have a door upstairs was contributing. I started the day looting newspaper dispensers for paper and magazines, and then decided to explore eastwards until I found this sort of compound. It looked like life existed elsewhere in the city, and that was shortly confirmed by this speaker. He offered quests in return for money, and if money is what we needed to trade, then I better get some gear and start doing some quests, as I'm to be making some money. So I selected one of his quests and began digging at the location he mentioned to find the buried stash with the supplies that he needed. But by the time I returned to his place, he had closed for the day. Clearly, he wasn't as hardworking as I was willing to be. Instead, I cleaned up the area of zombies to make it a little bit more safe, and headed into the gas store for the night, as it was also raining. The trader opened up at the late hour of 10 AM and paid me 250 dukes and some lockpicks for retrieving the loot. I decided to hold off doing the quest as tonight was Horde night again, which I needed to prepare for. So instead, I went home to drop off all the loot. I made a combine station which allowed me to combine 2 knives that I had to make it a slightly better one. I got some explosive that I had looted before. I went out to go find a place to go do the Horde night. I settled for this pipe facility place. It had a roof which was slightly high enough for me to stand on.
Alright, the second Horde night. Let's do it. There they are. Hello down there, buddy.
And I soon started laying bullets into the incoming Horde, killing them. As the more kills you get, the more likely you are to get a loot bag. But with them all gathering together, I tried out some of the explosives that I had brought with me. Once the clock hit 4 AM, the Horde night was over, so I jumped down to take out the surviving zombies before grabbing the loot bags which refilled the ammo I had just used. Following the Horde night, my tier 3 pipe gun was about to break, so I swapped it for a tier 2 that I had found and then set off to the trader to get myself a new quest, as I ended up scrapping the one I agreed last time. But when I got there, all of his quests were rather far away, so I left without one, returning back into the city, returning to my warm, dry home to get out of the pouring rain. I wanted to improve my base and get a workstation, but still needed more books for it. So I headed to this construction site in the city, as I hoped the books that I needed would be likely to spawn here. I did end up getting one of the books from the cement mixer at the top of the building, and some more food, but still needed a couple more of the books. So it was back to checking newspaper dispensers, but once the sun went down, I returned home. In the early hours of the morning, I filled up some water jars with water. Just ignore that, zombies head rolling down. As the water cooked up, I wandered around the city, reading whatever magazines and newspapers I could find, but mainly hoping to get the Forge Ahead books.
I hear an airdrop. I can't see it though. Oh, some smoke over there. It might be an airdrop. Alright, what's inside? Some food? We'll happily take that. Some handgun magazines, armoured up books, that's okay. Right, I kind of want to make my way up to the top of this because I think I saw like a Jew collector. I might be able to get some Forge Ahead books from it. I assume the entrance point's down here. Oh, we got a door unlocked. What is this place?
It seemed to be some sort of underground bunker, but with a food box inside, I wasn't going to complain. But there was a lot more to it than just some underground bunker.
This must have been like some other survivors' like camp. Look at it. Got vehicles, got a Jew collector, they've got a generator, fuel. This place looks awesome. I just wonder what happened to the people that were here. I guess they all got turned into zombies. Some leftover ammo, we will take that.
I spent some time clearing out the floor area, getting a loot bag as my reward, and another Forge Ahead book.
We just need one more for a workbench. Right, can we go from this cement mix? No, we get cement though.
It was starting to get quite late, so I headed inside one of the buildings to clear the zombies inside, as I'm probably going to have to spend the night inside here. And one of the houses had a nice surprise for me.
Oh, weapons bag. Pistol maybe? Oh, we do get a pistol. Oh, that's really good, that. Although using a pistol will attract more zombies towards us. So we're going to have to be careful when we use it. Right, I guess let's stay here for the night. It seems pretty safe inside. Then tomorrow we'll head back to base with all this stuff that we found.
As the morning sun rose, I made my way back home, using my new pistol to help clear the route. At base, I had plenty of pistol ammo waiting for me in storage to be used in my new pistol. Which was good news, as I decided to enter into the football stadium, which I was definitely going to need the ammo for, as this place was packed with zombies. However, it didn't take me long to begin feeling overwhelmed with the sheer number of zombies inside, as I began backing up further and further until my pistol broke, and that confirmed that I had to leave. I headed home and placed my pistol in storage to be used another day once it was repaired. I had also been diagnosed with another infection, so I had to go out to search for some more honey to cure it. I found some, cured the infection, and made it back home out of the terrifying nighttime. On day 18, I made myself a forge and got to crafting some forged iron in it. It allowed me to make a wrench so I could head into the city and begin scrapping cars for spare parts, which I then brought back home to drop into my storage. I spent the rest of the day cleaning up the city from more zombies before returning home for the night to some nicely cooked bacon and eggs. On day 19, I returned to the trader to see what he had for sale. Nothing really interested me other than the paper, but that was only to cover the raw meat I had on me. On the way back to the city, a plane flew overhead, dropping another supply drop, although I couldn't exactly see it. It didn't take me long to locate it, so with the target acquired, I made my way towards it. Seemingly it had landed in the city, so I climbed a building to find it, seeing the smoke emitting from it. Inside the supply drop was some more shotgun ammo and some magazines, which was useful. I then decided to climb to the very top of this crane for the night, which gave me a pretty insane view of the city. During the night I had spotted what looked like some farming blocks on top of another building, so I marked it on my map for future reference. As the sun rose, I climbed down this crane and out into the wilderness to find this excavation site in the hopes of finding a forger headbook, and thankfully I did get one from this cement mixer. Inside the site was this massive underground complex which looked a little bit too scary for me, so I left and returned home to craft a workstation. Finally. As it crafted, I collected some seeds as I had hopes in finding that building top again. I had to clear a few zombies on my way up to the roof, and up there was a weapon bag waiting for me, but it only had a spear inside and I don't really have much interest in using that. I planted all the seeds that I brought with me and then left to let them grow peacefully as I returned home for the night, where I placed the workstation that I'd now crafted and began making a bicycle chassis and handlebars. But to make the bike I needed 2 wheels, so I tried my luck out at this gas station who had a few zombies inside that I needed to remove first. Luckily for me, one of the boxes had a spare wheel, which was amazing as I could craft the other wheel back at base, which meant I could make the bike, and now I had a mode of transport quicker than just walking. Before night, just a few hours away, I made my way up to the building that I had done the last horde night on.
Right, horde night time. Let's go. No doggy. Oh, we've got 2 dogs.
The night was quite fun as I brought my pistol and just spammed bullets into the zombie brains, but it was actually quite a good thing that I'd brought a gun with me, as there seemed to be quite a few more zombies this time than last.
What the hell? How did she get up? And why would you stood next to me, man? Damn, I could really do a pipe bomb right now. Hey, what did I say? Right, let's get these zombies slain.
With the night over, I made my way to the trader to sell him some spare loot to raise some funds, as well as get another quest to go do. I made my way to the quest, but heard a supply drop fly over. There was just one small problem.
I can't see where the airdrop is. That's just way too foggy. That's a shame.
Instead, I focused on digging up the berry stash, finding the loot the trader needed. On the way back to the trader, I found this.
What the hell is this? Wild West Coffin? Oh, damn, nice. Rest in peace to Mad Mole. Now that he's dead, I guess he wasn't all that bad. Rest in peace to him. At least he escaped the zombie apocalypse.
The trader thanked me for my work and gave me gunpowder, before getting me to dig up some more buried stashes. But by the time I returned, he had closed for the night, so I returned back home, where I made myself a gun safe to store all the weapons that I had been collecting, and a few pipe bombs, as I wanted them in the last horde night. I made up some fresh water the next morning and collected the reward for the quest I'd done the previous day, getting some more gunpowder. Having enjoyed working for the trader, I got another quest digging up more dirt to find buried stash. I did a couple more digging quests for the trader, getting a magazine bundle and Tools Digest book in return, and finished off the day with a quest over at this yoga studio. which was no match for me and my pistol, but it did end up taking me past 10 PM to do it, but I was able to finish it up without much issue. The one issue was all the noise I'd made during the quest, which attracted some zombies over, so I had some midnight fighting to do. In the morning, I returned home, fixed a sprained leg I had, and into the wilderness I went to cure an infection, before greeting the trader to collect my reward. After I was back doing the digging quest, getting paid in pipe bombs for my hard labour. Then the trader sent me into the city to clear out a POI from zombies, which didn't take me too long to do, with help with my pistol. I got some extra loot from this place, some medical gear, and some more food, before I returned home for the night. I got round to getting my reward from the next morning from the trader, collecting some more pipe bombs. I tried to start another quest, but an airdrop began falling nearby, so I went and collected that, but frustratingly fractured my arm en route. Thankfully, the airdrop helped fix the sprain, which was quite convenient. My next quest at hand was to clear this house of zombies, so I stepped inside and got to work, before taking out this fat cop in the garden and getting the last zombies upstairs. But once more, the trader had closed by the time I was done, so instead I returned to my lovely base for the night. However, this night was different. A storm raged outside which would change the landscape forever, and as I stepped outside in the morning, I was coughing up smoke, and as I looked around the corner, the ground had been burned to ashes. The trees were now cold, and the world had just gotten a little bit more difficult to survive in. Yet, the fire overnight clearly hadn't killed the zombies. In fact, a few of them had just turned into burnt versions. To survive my new environment, I needed to farm up some coal and some mushrooms to craft myself a black lung serum. It was an injection which I shot into my arm to help me cope with the thick smoky air. The new conditions seemed to be perfect for mushrooms to begin growing, so I went around farming them all up, as well as collected some nitrate, which completed a few of these challenges which unlocked the smoke gear, which would allow me to live here freely without constantly needing those injections. The burnt forest was sending the zombies wild, and that meant I had to be on it in terms of dealing with them, as more and more kept arriving at my base. I finally got the smoke gear made and wore it as I tried to stay inside for the night, but the noise and the chaos made me address it, as I went berserk with the pistol outside, which only brought more and more zombies to my location, which meant I had to shoot even more. But eventually it got a little bit calmer, and the area near my base was once again starting to seem thin of zombies. Once the sun was up, I was out busy harvesting tree stumps looking for more honey to cure my current infection.
Really, honey? Oh, got bees. Oh yeah, let's get this.
Later that day, I decided to see how the trader was doing with the biome change, and helped him out a little bit cleaning up his area from zombies.
It is absolutely crazy. It's just animal after zombie after animal after zombie. Oh my god.
I eventually got to see the trader and got a quest digging up some more treasure, which in return gave me some pipe bombs the following morning. I quickly got another quest started, but before returning to the trader, I looted the supply drop nearby, which gave me a farmer hat and some building blocks, which will be useful later on. The trader then gave me a magazine and the option for some more loot, as I had just completed 10 tier 1 quests, so I chose myself the gatherer in case I started to collect some rainwater later on. I stayed in my base for the evening, but as the red glow of the atmosphere started to make its way inside, I forgot one thing.
Oh, it's Horde Night.
So I scrambled on top of the nearest building and began shooting the incoming hostiles.
This is not good, this. I've got the raw meat on me, which is increasing my smell. Ow. How are they getting up? Uh-oh. I need to pop a Mega Crush. Oh, we've got ladders up here.
My only option left for the night was to run and jump anywhere I could fit to get away from the zombies.
Uh-oh. Right, run, run, run. I'm gonna pop my Mega Crush. We survived, we survived, we survived.
Somehow I had survived, which meant I could now begin the process of cleaning up all the zombies who would chase me. Once they were done, I rushed back home to begin fixing up all the issues I had got, like the sprained wrist. I did have to go out to find some tree stumps for honey for an infection, but I faced a race against time with an incoming storm. I did get caught in the storm, but it didn't do enough damage to stop me returning home. I spent the next day crafting vehicle storage mods to increase the cargo space on my bike, and then went out to fill up some water jars to cook into drinking water. With that cooking, I headed to the trader where I bought myself some machine gun parts, in case I was able to make my own guns in the future. I finished off the day by finding another library to loot. The more books I can find, the better weapons I can craft, but I could only read them all if the zombies inside were dead first. There was one small issue of a green radiated zombie out back, but luckily my pistol was able to deal with it. The end haul consisted of most notably 11 handgun, 5 rifle, 3 vehicle and 3 armoured books. I cycled through the busy city and returned home after the successful trip. I started day 31 with a trip to the trader to seek out some more books that he had for sale. I then made my way back to the old stomping grounds of the prison, as the plan was always the base here. But I'd forgot one thing: the zombies had repopulated the base, and they were more dangerous than before. And matters didn't improve when a screamer zombie showed up and I got infected, nor did it help when my arm got sprained. So I ended up fleeing on my bike and getting some honey to cure the infection, as I waited for my sprain to fix naturally, and then re-entered the prison for round 2. And it was crazy. The sheer number of zombies inside was more than before, and they were stronger than last time. It was actually going quite well though, as I killed these zombies in the back of a trailer, until a storm began to roll in, as did another screamer zombie. The storm was really bad news, as it made the zombies feral and even stronger, so I had to climb up this watchtower and just sit it out. Once the storm had passed, I quickly got back to slaying the zombies still alive. The battling continued as I entered my old cell block, before I then took refuge in one cell for the night, but as soon as the sun was up I was right back into the fighting. I made my way downstairs and took out the prison inmates who were chilling down there, which left just one place to clear: the dreaded upstairs, the warden's room.
Alright, okay, we got a bunch of greens.
I used the bow to kick things off with its sneak damage bonus, and then quickly ran downstairs using the doors as temporary blocks to fight the zombies, as they had small holes which I could safely shoot through. I thought I killed the last zombies, but turned out there were way more still waiting for me. This time I ran further till I found prison bar doors and stood behind, lobbing pipe bombs at them and shooting until their bodies dropped. Annoyingly, the police cop could still attack right through them and forced me to dip into some medical items that I'd brought with me. It took many bullets to control the crowd and a near-death experience, but in the end I made my way up to the roof and left, as it was just too much for me right now. With the addition of the screamers who had shown up once more, I returned back to the safety of my base in the city, where I recovered with some vitamins and needed honey to cure another infection. So into the wilderness I went to get a couple more tree stumps for honey. The next morning I was back at the trader selling him cash and gold in return, purchased some handgun parts. I soon returned with some more ammo and stuff to sell, as I desperately wanted to buy all the handgun parts he had available, which were going to be used to make a tier 6 pistol, a big upgrade on my current tier 1, and I was going to use it to help me clear the rest of the prison, or I would have if a storm hadn't rolled in. So I had to return home to see it out. Once it had passed, I was back on the move, but to the trader to get myself a tier 2 quest to quickly do before Horde Night. But weirdly, I couldn't find the starting point of the quest, so I ended up just leaving to go get ready for the Horde Night instead. I got myself some more ammo and then hopped on top of the building I'd done the last few Horde Nights on, and with Horde Night underway, I wasted no time blowing up the zombies and shooting down the Vultures.
Oh, that's a lot of them. Right. Pipe bomb these boys. Where are they all going? Why are they just having a little party down there? Like, literally, have I offended them? What the hell? Oh, I think there's like a tunnel there, and they want us to go in that or something? I don't know. Horde Night's over. Right, let's begin taking these guys out. No! Oh, wow, I got 7,000 XP from that. Kaboom!
I finished up the remaining zombies and then got to looting the loot bags, which was a good way to bring back some ammo. With Horde Night done, I returned to the prison as I entered a rather quiet warden's room. So that meant it was time to dig into the loot, getting ammo and an AK-47.
Ooh, yes! It's what you want to see. An AK-47, although we don't... Oh, we have 13 bullets for it. Amazing.
I then tried to open up the last hardened chest, but ran out of lockpicks.
No, we're out of lockpicks. Darn it. Oh, we can make them, we just need more forged iron and stuff.
I did a sweep of the prison to make sure it was all clear, and once it was, I began renovating the warden's room to make it my own. I then had to do a few trips to and from the old base and the prison, bringing over all my gear, which took me into the next morning. Over the next day, I got to making a couple forges and getting them placed so that I could begin smelting iron and clay and getting a campfire made too. I did have another infection, so once more I was back out in the forest getting honey for it. I also finally got some lockpicks made so I could open the chest which had this inside.
Ooh, athletic shoes, that's going to be good. Medkit, food bundle, it's actually pretty good. 10 spaghettis, that's really good.
I also used the lockpicks to open this gun safe which had a machete inside, which was really nice. By the end of day 38, I had a few visitors show up, and what better opportunity to show off my new machete which destroyed them. The visitors kept showing up as they did on the morning of day 39, but at least these guys did give me some loot bags in return for death, so I don't mind that too much. I then found myself getting a supply drop which had some okay loot inside, before I tackled this apartment block which did have some interesting zombies hidden inside it, like this radiated spider zombie and a feral cop who was just chilling in the kitchen. The rest of the apartments weren't too bad to clear, even if I did get hit a couple times and had to use my AK-47 in the moment of panic. And coming across another radiated zombie who almost finished. The roof was a bit of an issue with the amount of zombies up there, but after some precision shooting and running around I was able to get them all dealt with. The loot wasn't anything too great sadly. I guess some acid and more jukes is always good, but that didn't really compare to the arrival of a screamer who had clearly heard all the shooting I'd been doing. I took her down without her screaming and the rest of the gang before heading home the next day. The next day I was over at the trader sending him some more spare loot, and in the return I bought a couple more Forger head books. I also got myself a new quest, an infested clear a kilometre away. As I made my way over, I found a supply shop with a double-barrel shotgun bundle inside.
Alright, let's do this infested clear. Dude, that bed was so frustrating, I just kept bouncing up.
I then got to try out my new shotgun on these radiated zombies.
Right, so the aim on this shotgun was just not where it aims. I was trying to line it up with the little like scope on it, but it ended up shooting up there. That was just terrible. We just one-shot that green zombie. The radiated.
I finished up the last zombie and got to the loot where I found some good ammo from this infested chest. I stayed in this corner as a storm raged outside, but once it was over, I hopped on my bike back to the trader to get a first aid kit as my reward. I selected another quest, this time much closer to the trader. The quest was a little bit easier than the last one, as I was able to do it mostly with my machete. I got the last zombie and tucked into the loot and left forgetting one thing. I should have found some supplies there.
I didn't get the supplies! Oh, I'm such an idiot.
With my tail in between my legs, I returned to the trader to get a new quest having failed that previous one. I quickly tried to do it before night time.
Ooh, hello! Tier 6 AK-47. And there's a satchel. Nice, let's go.
But when I returned to the trader, he had closed for the night. Instead, back at base, I read a treasure map and went out to go dig it and find it.
Right, what's inside? Wow. That's a lot of dukes.
There was a lot of dukes, but also ammo and a radiation remover, which stops the radiated zombies from healing mid-fight. The next morning, I returned to the trader to get my reward of some pistol ammo, and then I went back home and got myself ready for Horde Night on top of the prison.
Right, let's do this. Horde Night in the prison. Hello, zombies.
Oh, they're all coming up me ladder. Oh my, there's a chug. He's dead, he's dead, he's dead. That's not good. My arm's sprained. That's really not good. Oh, right, that's a lot of zombies there. I need to get up there somehow. Oh, that was quick. Wait. How did she get up? Oh, they're getting through here. Oh, there's a ladder. Oh, and the nurse has got up here again. Oh, Christ, they're all getting up now. Right, I need to sort out where I'm gonna go. Ow. Let's pop. Medkit. Alright, I need to literally hold on for 20 minutes. Right, that is 4 AM. Alright, let's begin taking these out. Right, she's dead. Why is that screamer just shutting over there?
I finally dealt with the last of the zombies hours after Horde Night had finished, and just needed to chill for a bit. I didn't stay still for too long, as I was then out going after a couple supply drops that had landed nearby, and then met with the trader to buy a generator bank so I could set up those SMG turrets that I'd found all those days ago. On day 44, I decided to investigate this farm, mainly for the free crops that were still growing. I stepped inside the building to tackle the zombies that had tried to invade the farm. There were quite a few inside, so my AK-47 was needed, and that allowed me to access the loot, where I got a treasure map and some ammo. So I read the map and went out to go dig it up, with it giving me some good ammo. But it was then that night the weather was acting strange, and by the time I woke up, sand and dust filled up my lungs as I coughed. It seemed the weather had dried up the land further, and the zombies were now even more mad, which was evident when I tried to leave the prison, as I was faced with a barrage of zombies, including one who was spitting bees at me. To survive this new world, I was going to need this, a sunstroke tonic, which required aloe vera, which was rather common in this new biome. I crafted a tonic, and as I waited, I killed some of these bee-spitting zombies, who were rather annoying to deal with. I also killed this zombie who gave a loot bag containing a tier 6 iron shovel, a nice upgrade on my stone shovel. To survive without the tonics, I needed to mine up some oil to complete the challenges which unlocked the desert gear, which I then made back at home. I then made my way to the trader to see what he had for sale, as I bought a handgun part and a ratchet. I was up early the next morning exploring the city when I saw a random 4x4 truck parked in this place, and I don't know about you, but I want to upgrade from my bike. But first I did have to deal with this stupid annoying b-boy. I found the keys to open the door to find it, but the truck wasn't even drivable, which was slightly annoying. Following that massive disappointment, I spent time scrapping cars to get all the spare parts as I waited for the trader to open. Once he was open, I bought a couple electric posts as I wanted to make some sort of base for the next Horde Night. Back at base, I was able to make myself a lever action sniper rifle with all the materials that I'd been looting so far. I equipped it a scope and boy did it look good. I spent the rest of the day working on a horde base right in the centre of the courtyard. I was trying to go for some sort of walkway with a hole in it for the zombies to fall down. So I'll just show you the progress I made by the time the next Horde Night came round. I was only able to get it to the building block stage by the time Horde Night came round, so like last time, I hopped on the roof to tackle the night. I was safe the entire Horde Night up on the roof as I fired down on the zombies below, and before I knew it, the night was over, and I now had the job of cleaning up the remaining zombies. Once calmness had returned, I returned to the base building. And it was only after 4 days of crafting building materials and upgrading building blocks that I had built this. It included a big pit drop for the zombies to fall into, a walkway for the zombies to fall off, or reach me, where I'll be stood behind this wall fighting them, and it also included these 2 hatches so that I could see the zombies that fell down below. And what better way to test it than with this random zombie who decided to stroll and fall down just like I had hoped he would. I spent the next day adding some finishing touches to the base and making sure it was all upgraded to the proper quality, and it was all finished just in time for the Horde Night to begin, as I made my way to my fighting position with my guns reloaded and welcomed the arrival of the incoming zombie. I was able to finally sit back in a Horde Night and fire bullets safely and comfortably as I blasted all the zombies, even throwing a few pipe bombs to help control the crowd. I did have the odd instance of a zombie getting past the wall and my AK-47 breaking, but aside from that, I heard the 4 AM chimes and began finishing up the zombies who had survived this far. The zombies had caused a bit of damage in the pit, but I was willing to ignore that, considering the amount of loot bags I'd got, which helped replenish the ammo I'd used during the Horde Night. I spent day 57 cooking some fresh water, which I desperately needed after the last week of building. I then made a trip to the trader to sell him some shotgun ammo, magnum ammo, as I wasn't really using either of them, and got myself an infested clear quest to go do. The quest started off fairly easy as my machete made light work of the zombies inside. The issue came when a bunch more radiated and blue zombies showed up, and it didn't exactly get easier after when I faced these 2 green and orange police zombies. Thankfully, they were no match for my AK. The rest of the house wasn't too much of a problem, as most of the zombies just funneled down the stairs, which made them a rather easy kill as I got the last zombie dealt with. And it was about to turn 10 PM, so I hid in this room for the night. I returned to the trader the following morning, where I stood outside and had some fun with my sniper and the local zombie population as I waited for the trader to open up. I got myself another quest, but with a storm starting, I was forced to retreat back home. Once the storm was over, I had a couple screamers show up at base, which wasn't exactly what I wanted to see, but it turned out to be another test for my horde base, as quite a few zombies ended up showing up. During the night, I got to making some antibiotics as my infection was up to 19%. I spent the day mining up stone to turn it into cement and concrete, as my whole base did need some repairs after its last use. But the production of concrete ended up bringing some more screamers to my base, which needed to be dealt with. The following morning, I was back out questing as I took on these 2 buildings, which did have quite a few zombies inside, but I was able to deal with them relatively easily as I finished it off by taking out this remaining blue zombie to complete the quest, and the loot was what most interested me as I found myself a tier 3 magnum revolver, which I equipped to my hotbar, replacing my tier 6 pistol. During the night, I began working on fixing up the horde base, which had been dealt so much damage. But once the trader was open, I met him to collect my reward from the previous day's quest. I then rushed to start my next quest just to get inside as a storm was raging, which was an opportunity to try out my new revolver, which was doing pretty good. It helped me get to the final loot where I found an upgrade on my tier 1 machete, finding a tier 6. I collected the supplies the trader wanted and returned once the storm was over to get myself an antibiotic which would cure my current infection. I then quickly started my next quest, rushing through it with my new revolver and machete to finish the quest and collect the satchel that the trader wanted. I got my reward the next morning, taking the pipe bombs, and spent the rest of the day working on cooking some food. The next morning, I was back at the trader once again, selling him spare loot and buying in exchange a perception mod, which would give me an extra point in the perception skill tree, which would help with my sniper. With it being horde night tonight, I worked on the base to fix the issues of last time where some zombies were able to jump over the wall, and I fixed up the pit that had been broken quite badly. And as 10 PM rolled around, it was time to start the fighting. I got to using those Molotovs I'd gotten from the trader to use on the zombies that fell in the pit to help do some more damage. But my aim could have done with a bit of work when I ended up catching myself on fire. My issues only got worse when the zombies made it through and I had to ditch the base entirely. I built up the side of a wall safe from the zombies, well, except from the cops who could still spit at me. I continued to build up higher before attempting something stupid, or as I would call it, smart, as I then jumped back down to the horde base and quickly rebuilt it with some concrete blocks that I had on me. And it worked, as the zombies began funneling up again, and as 4 AM came round, I survived what was actually a pretty terrible horde night. I then cleaned up the remaining zombies, and once they were gone, got to doing my favourite part, looting up all the bags, getting upgrades like a steel axe. I was rewarded after the horde night with a supply drop, but its contents weren't anything great. I returned to base as another storm was brewing, but this storm was different. It was much stronger than before, and as I hid in the base, the cold began setting in, and I was forced to get myself a torch to stop the frostbite. The storm turned out to actually be a massive snowstorm, bringing a new winter wonderland to the world, but I was struggling to adapt to the freezing air. So I made up one of these scorcher stews to help battle the cold, but I knew this wasn't going to be a permanent solution, which I would need to go out and find, but I only found this guy, a Chuck who was clearly adapted to the snow with his massive winter jacket. I stepped outside the prison and used my sniper to help clear the numbers around the area a little bit. I then collected some blueberries that had begun growing and mined up coal to help me craft some snow gear, but there was one massive issue. I needed cotton, and cotton doesn't grow in the snow biome, nor did I have any at base. That only left me 2 options: to stay inside as much as possible so that I wasn't affected by the cold air, and if I did have to step outside I would live off the scorcher stews, which weren't exactly easy to make. Or I could find some cotton, either grow it or buy it from a trader and make the snow gear myself and be able to survive permanently here. So I decided to try the trader, but sadly he didn't have any cotton. I had heard about this farmer who lived up further north, so I decided to try and pay him a visit. But with the temperatures being just so cold, I had to take multiple breaks inside houses to recover from it before continuing my journey. By the time I got to the trader area, he had closed for the night, so I chose this house to stay in. But I chose the wrong house, as inside it was carnage, with so many tough zombies not willing to share with me. So my night ended up turning into quite the fight. I finally met with the trader in the morning, and he had no cotton. The only positive was this one house that had cotton growing out of it, but it was only 2 plants. I stayed inside this house for the night and began the journey back home the next day. I did find another trader who was actually selling 1 single cotton seed, so maybe I could turn this 1 cotton seed into the 50 cotton that I needed. So the next day I worked on farming up clay to get a couple farming books to begin growing the cotton. My next goal was to get a generator set up with the engines and fueled so I could finally use my SMG turrets in the horde base that I got all those days ago. I also got these electric posts which would zap the zombies, slowing them down and doing a little bit of damage. To make sure it was working, I tested it out myself and it definitely worked. I got the turrets loaded with the ammo, but with horde night still a day away, I headed out to do some mining of iron, getting 12,000 of it, throwing it all in the forge to smelt down. I quickly tried to make the horde base survivable with the cold, as it was out in the open and the cold air was slowly killing me, but I messed it all up, so I just had to YOLO the horde night, using medkits to keep myself alive in the deep cold. But a positive was that my SMG turrets and electric fence posts were working just as intended. But the positives soon ended, as quite a few zombies stopped running up the horde base and instead began attacking the foundations where I was stood. So I had to keep one eye on the zombies running up normally, and one eye on those trying to break the base down from behind. And it got to the point where I built up more foundations mid-horde night just to be safe. And it then got a little bit worse when I tried to build up even more foundations, but fell down into the Molotovs that I had just lit. So I ran around in a panic, but thankfully horde night was just about to end. I built my way up to the top of the roof and then plucked off the zombies one by one to end the night, as there were quite a few zombies left. But eventually, after killing these 2 idiots that were stuck at a table, it all went quiet again. Apart from the storm that I just started. During the storm, I looted up some loot bags and found myself a tier 6 sniper, the best sniper available. a big upgrade, so I swapped out my old lever action sniper for it. Once Storm was over, I wanted to begin works on getting a chemistry station, but for that I needed acid, which you can get from looting cars and scrapping them, so that's what I did for the rest of the day and well into the next day. But I was struggling to get any acid, so I took a break from that and ended up looting this gas station, where I got myself a tier 6 steel sledgehammer, which was quite nice, even if I wasn't going to use it. I finished off the day with a mining trip, getting nitrate and getting a good amount of it, over 7,000. I then met with the trader the next morning to sell him a bunch of spare loot I didn't need, where I bought myself another cottonseed and a bipod mod for that sniper that I just found. I found another supply drop which had some okay books inside before rushing back home before 10 PM and planting that one cottonseed. I started day 74 with a mining trip getting clay so that I could smelt it all down in the forge for various different things, but once again a storm interrupted that, so I was forced to return home. The next day I continued work towards a chemistry bench needing that acid, and I thought the best place to search for it would be at a gas station or a mechanic shop. So I began looting all the car loot boxes and killing the zombies in my way, of which there were quite a few, and I had to deal with a couple screamers who dare stop me from finding the acid. Sadly, the final loot didn't give me any acid, but it did give me some good ammo which I can't complain about. So I gave up on the search for acid and returned home, but soon headed out again to find this treasure chest that I had the map for, which gave me a bunch of jukes and more ammo, which is always good. So I went to the trader the next morning to spend the jukes buying quite a few different books, a nail gun to help repair the horde base, and got myself a quest to go do. The quest was only a tier 2, and my gear was quite strong by this point, so it wasn't too much of an issue to complete the clear the zombie quest, as I finished it with this sniper shot to the crawler. I also found myself a tier 6 desert vulture, a nice upgrade on my magnum revolver that I was currently using. The trader thanked me for my work, giving me some ammo in return and offered me an infested clear quest at GameStar and Harmony Candles. I quickly returned home though to cure an infection and get my desert vulture equipped to my hotbar. I then went and started the new quest, which had quite a few radiated blue and orange zombies, the toughest zombies that I'll face, which wasn't exactly fun. I kept spamming my AK-47 at them, which seemed to work as I got to the loot and found a tier 3 M60, which I thought was going to be great, but turned out to do less damage than my AK-47, even after taking off all the mods, with my AK doing over 10 plus more damage per bullet. I had to stay the night inside the quest location, which was fun when a radiated truck wandered in, and it got even better when this direwolf showed up outside. I then skedaddled away just before the sun came up, heading back to the trader to get my reward. With that done, I went and travelled to the nice warmth of my base to drop off all my loot. I used my new nail gun to begin repairing the rather battered horde base, with Horde Night starting in just a few hours. I filled in the holes with new concrete blocks, and it was all done just in time for the 10 PM start time, as the zombies began to make their way towards me, with my base working just as intended. I also got to throw grenades at the fools that fell down into the pit, and blasted the zombies with my new desert vulture, which was rather strong. I did also face the issue of zombies once again trying to break the base from behind instead of running up, as I wish they would. But I made it to 4 AM and began hurling many grenades at the zombies left. And with it all over, I made my way out of the base and to the trader to sell him some cash and get myself another tier 2 quest to do. I used my desert vulture and sniper to easily clear the quest, as I found myself a tier 6 stun baton and tier 6 M60 machine gun, which was definitely an upgrade on my AK-47. I got all my mods transferred to it, and that was now going to be my new primary weapon. I quickly started my next tier 2 quest, finding the satchel rather quickly, and then eliminating the remaining zombies, and completing the quest getting a tier 6 compound bow as loot, but I'm not really interested in using bows in this playthrough. The trader thanked me for doing the quest with a vehicle book, and then a trap bundle, as that was actually my last tier 2 quest needed to complete the tiers. So with that done, I went home to drop off all the good loot I had found, and then the next day I was quickly back to meet Trader Joel to get my first tier 3 quest. And I also bought a few books that he had for sale. The quest was this police station, which of course has police cops inside who can be rather tricky to tackle with their vomit attack. I soon found the weapons room, which had some good ammo inside and another desert vulture and machete for me. I found the final zombie and got rid before getting back to the trader to get a foregrip mod as my reward. The rest of the quests were far away, so I was going to return tomorrow to hopefully get a new one, which I did as I went home for the night and waited for the sun to rise the following morning and then returned to the trader to get my next tier 3 quest. The new quest wasn't really that difficult, especially not when I brought out my new M60 machine gun, as I got the last zombie and tucked into the loot with nothing too special apart from a treasure map. I managed to collect my reward and start another quest before the trader closed for the night. I headed back home for the night, needing a rest from that busy day. The next morning I went out to go collect that treasure map I'd looted the day before. I dug up around the area and finally found it, and boy was it worth it. Inside a tier 4 auto shotgun, the best shotgun available. My next goal was to cook up some jam chowders as I'd run out of food. I then found myself a supply shop and headed over to the sports stadium, which I tried to clear all those days ago, but now felt I was able to finally do so. So I found the entrance and began to clear out the zombies. The time hit 10 PM, which was a little annoying as the zombies went out quicker, but they were still no match for my desert vulture or my M60, which I switched to when the crowds got a little bit too much to deal with. After clearing the field, I headed inside, killing these radiators, and then almost got caught by this orange zombie. I continued to make my way downstairs, cleaning out the changing rooms, and then those in the underground sewer system. The place was giving me so much loot that I had to keep dropping stuff that I had already looted to pick up the ammo that I kept finding. But I definitely wasn't going to share any of this loot with this screamer. I made my way into the ticket office, which seemed to be the final room. And it was, as I backed up into the elevator and let my M60 machine gun go wild, killing all the zombies that dared face me. I cleared up the final few zombies with my auto shotgun, and then the silence rang out. The stadium had finally been cleared. I then made my way to the loot where I got even more ammo, so much of it that I had to go drop a lot of it in my bicycle and then return to collect the remaining loot. I then had some fun outside sniping all the zombies just to help further clear the area from zombies. During the night I headed back home to drop off all that loot I'd got, which was so much I had to even get more storage set up. The next morning I was back at the trader buying some new books with all the jukes I'd been collecting and getting myself a new tier 3 quest at the KLZ radio station. It was easier than that sports stadium that I had just cleared, and that was reflected in the reduced loot quality, although I could never really be unhappy about finding a treasure map. I finally found the supplies that the trader was wishing for and exchanged them for a sham chowder. I didn't return home for the night and instead went to dig up the treasure chest with it having some good ammo and jukes. I then returned home the next morning to drop off all the loot that I had found that previous day. I then remembered it was Horde night in a few hours, so I got to rebuilding the damaged base, and as 10 PM rolled around I took my fighting position and let my SMG turrets wreak havoc from below as I fired my desert vultures into the onslaught of zombies. The first issue of the night came when a burnt zombie caught me and set me on fire. So I stepped back to cool myself off, and then another zombie broke that exact block that I had just been standing on. The only other issue I had was letting my health get a little bit too low from the cold before popping a medkit. Apart from that, Horde night went pretty well, especially when all the zombies bunched up in the pit and I could just blast away with my M60 at them all, which I'll admit was rather satisfying. And as 4 AM hit and the zombies stopped spawning, I took out the remaining few and then began my favourite part of Horde night, cleaning up all of those loot bags which were only becoming more and more frequent with every Horde night. I spent a bit of time crafting up a magazine mod and reflex sight for my shotgun to make it a little bit better, and as they crafted I went out to go collect this airdrop which was landing. It had some food and books inside, so it was okay. Back at base I made myself 30 lockpicks as I was almost out of my current stock, having been opening all of those reinforced chests in all the POIs, and then began equipping the new mods to my shotgun. The rest of the day ended up being warmer than normal, with the sun appearing to be stronger, and that was shown the next morning when all of that snow had all melted away, leaving behind a horrid wasteland. The melted snow had left behind a mess, and it was toxic, as I found out when I began coughing up green stuff. There was a remedy for this though, something called Fallout Flush, but I needed supercorn, yucca fruit, radiated mushrooms and acid. I tried to go out and collect them, but needed to clear the entrance of my prison first. I made my way to Trader Joel, but he had no supercorn, so I had to go further north to that farmer trader, Trader Rect. I gathered some toxic mushrooms on the way, but I couldn't stay in the toxic air for too long, so I had to take a break in this house. I eventually made it to the trader, who did indeed have the supercorn. He also had some seeds, which I decided to buy as well. And that was the last ingredient I needed. I then began travelling back south to base, only stopping to inject myself with the Fallout Flush. I did face a few guests at base, a direwolf, a dire bear, and a couple mutated zombies. I then planted those supercorn seeds I'd bought, and then the next morning mined up lead to complete the wasteland challenges, so that I could make the radiation gear and survive here permanently without the Fallout Flush. I planned to get out nice and early on day 88, but a storm held me in. It was almost midday by the time the storm was over. I then headed out, and my goal for the remainder of these 100 days was just to clear as many big POIs as I could to truly stamp out the zombie infection in the city. And that started with this farm, who had some pretty tough zombies inside. The loot didn't have anything great, but as I said, the loot wasn't the target. I moved next door to take on Granddaddy's Cable Corporation, which, as you can guess, was packed full of dangerous zombies. But at least this place made up for it by having more ammo in the loot, as I had spent quite a bit clearing the place. It was night time when I finished, so I just chilled in this garage until the sun was up before moving to the next place, which was only next door again, and it was some sort of coffee factory. And once again it was full of the infected. The loot it gave only had a little bit of ammo, so I moved on quickly to the next place, and this was the Navasgane Waterworks Centre. I couldn't find the entrance, so I was forced to break down the front gate to gain access. This seemed to be the most difficult of all places so far. Or maybe it's just that the local wildlife decided to jump in whilst I was already dealing with the zombies, like this direwolf did. But this place was actually quite tough, having quite a few of the higher tier zombies inside. The main loot was okay, getting some ammo and a treasure map, and after 2 days of clearing POIs I returned home with quite a lot of loot in hand. I also combined that M60 I'd found, my current one, to make it stronger. I then went out to dig up the treasure chest, with it giving me a bunch of dukes and some ammo. I then made my way on bike to this housing construction site, having learned that it was supposed to be a higher tier POI. However, it really didn't seem that difficult, as I quite comfortably made my way through each house cleaning out the zombies. However, the difficulty soon ramped up once it was midnight, with many different high tier zombies showing up. Even including a direwolf which fractured my leg. And then to make things worse, a storm began to brew. So with the storm and a broken leg, I made my way into this trailer to hide away from it all. But I wasn't exactly that hidden, as a few zombies knew I was inside, and having become feral from the weather, they tried to break their way in. They made a hole, so I began to shoot them through it to keep myself safe. But once the storm was over, I hopped on my bike and began the slow cycle back home with my broken leg. I made it home safely, casted up my leg before taking some steroids to let the leg heal further, whilst I was busy tackling Horde Night, which was now moments away. So as the Horde Night began, I got to doing one of my favourite things, shooting my sniper and shotgun and shooting out the zombie brains. I did get hit through and broke my arm, but that steroid I had popped earlier helped me ignore that. I did also bring that compound bow I had found, and some explosive arrows that I'd looted with it, which were actually quite fun to use on the zombies. And before I knew it, the second last Horde Night was over. I popped back inside my base to take some vitamins, applied a cast for my broken arm, and drank honey to cure the infection, and then began to loot so many loot bags that had fallen during the night. It was insane how many there were. Once that was done, I went out to this nearby swimming pool and filled up some jars of murky water, cooking it up in the campfire to turn it into fresh drinking water. Some of the water was then used to make cornbread so that I could make some of these tuna gravy toast, as my latest food option had run out. I finished off the day cleaning up zombies near the entrance of the prison, and then the next morning getting rid of this zombie direwolf pair who were trying to make their way in my base. I decided to continue with the task that I've been doing for the last 7 days, taking on the city's biggest POIs and cleaning them all up so that the city had no zombies left in it. And that started with the Pineville bowling alley, which was first up to be de-infected from the zombies. The loot here gave me a little bit of ammo and another tier 6 machete, so I quickly moved out and cleaned up the street from these 2 zombie dire bears and returned home to store all the loot that I'd gained from the bowling alley, and also combined that machete with my current one to make it a bit stronger. The next morning I was back out in the city tackling my latest objective, with the next POI to be cleared being this apartment block, which I feel I have cleared earlier in the 100 days, but I guess the zombies flocked back to it and repopulated the place. This is what I got from the loot. Nothing too special, just some ammo and a new sight for my desert vulture. Outside, I continued my destructive path cleaning the zombies and took on the new POI. This was only a small POI, so it didn't take me too long to finish it, and I soon moved on to the next one, as I took on the 7-day suite, which was slightly bigger than the last gas station I cleared, so this is probably going to take me a little bit longer. And it definitely did, as there were so many more zombies that it took me well into the next morning to finish clearing them out. As a zombie direwolf and a screamer even showed up from all the shooting I'd been doing. In fact, it took me so long that I spent almost the entire day clearing it out. As I entered the last room where I faced what seemed like an endless chain of zombies showing up. But once I eventually got the last one down, I tucked into the loot, getting ammo, a blade trap bundle and a couple treasure maps. I decided to make my way home as I was rather loaded with all the loot. As I cycled through the city, it was starting to be rather empty, which was a pleasant sight to me. After waiting the night out, I took to the city the next morning to tackle my next POI, being the 2-bit tower. The parking garage at the base of the building was packed, and annoyingly one of the zombies ended up catching me, causing me to bleed. Having cleared that area, I moved upstairs into the apartments, where I did face one precarious situation where I backed up into some wooden spikes and then got hit from behind. I continued up the different floors, clearing them out with the many zombies that were there. It was the floor still under construction which was the most challenging I had faced, as a continuous flow of zombies that seemed never ending. I then made my way up to the roof, which was definitely the most chaotic part, with just the sheer amount of zombies up there, and it definitely didn't help that it just turned 10 PM, so they were now even quicker. But I was able to deal with them all and get myself to the loot, finding an upgrade to my shotgun with a tier 6 one, and a bunch of the loot in a hardened chest. But as I stood on the roof, I saw one building that was just screaming out to me, wanting to be cleared next. This one. I made my way towards it, and it seemed to be called the Power Records. I guess it's some sort of recording studio. So I made my way inside and began to tackle the infected. There were mostly ferals inside, which at this stage aren't too difficult to deal with, although there was the odd radiated and higher tier zombie which posed a bit more of a challenge. As I made my way nearer to the top, I faced zombie vultures and more radiators, which did cause me a bit of trouble, as I ended up bleeding, had a laceration and an infection. But as I reached the roof, that seemed to be the last of them, and that was another building successfully cleared of zombies. And then, as I looked over the city, it was starting to look much quieter, which was a massive relief. Before I headed home, I went and dug up those treasure maps I'd collected the other day, getting more dukes and more ammo, but right after, I went home and dropped off all the loot and drank some honeys to get rid of the infection. The next day, I went out to get the second treasure chest I had the map for. This one just gave me some more dukes and ammo. It was Horde Night tonight, the last one, so I had to repair the base a little bit as it had taken some damage from the last night, especially the pit area, so I had to fill in the holes there. But before I knew it, 10 PM was right around the corner, and the very last Horde Night was about to begin, so I gathered up a bunch more ammo than normal as I was prepared to go wild. Basically just holding my finger down on the trigger and never letting go, which is exactly what I did until I had to load. And when I got bored of that, I switched over to my shotgun, which was equally as destructive. And throughout the night, I just kept switching between the two as the zombies perished right in front of me. And as 4 AM came, officially the last Horde Night was over, and I had survived. I spent a bit of time cleaning up the remainers, and then looked down into the Horde base to see all that was left of them. Just a bunch of loot bags. I got to looting them all, where I managed to almost replenish all the ammo I just used during that last night. I then patrolled the prison, taking out the odd zombie that remained in the vicinity, and then headed into the city, which was now eerily quiet, apart from the odd zombie who I had to take out with my sniper. I then made my way up to that recording studio tower to check the city out once again, and it was quiet. My work in this zombie apocalypse was done. Having escaped the prison, I'd managed to loot and survive the zombie apocalypse, cleaning up the city and then taking back control of my prison. I had succeeded, and if you enjoyed my story, then make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you in the next one.